Hey guys, Kapper here. Today's video is going to be a fun one and an entertaining one. A couple deer just took off. I scared them, I guess. Hey guys, Kapper here. Today's video is going to be on my must-have options for a tractor. So this could be helpful if you're shopping for a tractor, or heck, even if you own one. A lot of these things could be added on later on. I'm going to also tell you why I like those options and how useful they can be. So let's get going. So we'll start up here in the front of the tractor. The first must-have option for me is a third function kit. There's a couple of different kinds, but if you've watched our videos for a while, you know that I've got the 4-in-1 bucket and a grapple right now. The Branson had a diverter valve up here where I'll show you on the joystick how it had to work, but this one I got a WR long ink. It's more of a true third function. Okay, so as far as the front third function, if the one that I had on the Branson was a diverter valve. So you had a button here. So you got your up and down and your curl, all right, and your dump right here this way. That diverter was, you'd have to push that button and then you could use your curl and dump this way and that would open the jaw. Whereas the one that I have now, you could be working your loader, and at the same time you could be opening and closing the implement up in the front. Like I said, they'll both work. Either one will work. It's just a difference in how they're kind of made. Okay, so the second must-have thing is I order 3 rear SCVs, 3 rear remotes. And there's a lot of reasons that I do that. The first one being that I have a hydraulic top link, and that already sucks up one of them. But if you look at some of the implements that I have ran over the years, like the Batwing, I have that one plumbed with 3 hydraulics so that I could operate that independently. I talked to the representative of that company and he said, yes, you can run them all the way up if you need to. Okay, this is one of the reasons I wanted those hydraulic cylinders separate. There's all kinds of circumstances where you just want to lift up one wing and not both. So what that does is if you're in tight spaces or whatever and you just need to put one wing up or even just a little, you know, if you're running over gravel, let's say on one side, but so you would need 3 rear remotes if you had it plumbed that way. There's also other implements that you could use all 3 of the rear remotes. But it's just better to have them, pay the little extra up front. And these can be added on after the fact also, but definitely 3 rear remotes to me has been a must-have, and it's worked out fine.
And one quick addition to having at least 3 rear remotes is one of the 3 should have a detent on it. I'll kind of explain what that is here really quick, but you definitely want one of them to have a detent.
Pretty much all the controls over here. I had them put a detent in one of the three. Yep. So I asked them to put it in the farthest away from the operator, the detent, which they did. That was an add-on also. There's actually two different kinds of detents you could get. There's kind of a spring-loaded one and then a fixed one. So you need a detent to run a rear implement like a log splitter or tree spade or something like that.
Okay, here's a look at what a rear detent does. So on this tree spade, there's 4 different hydraulic controls on it. And so if you were to plug these into 4 SCVs, you'd have to try to somehow run this from up in the tractor, which you would not be able to do. So implements like this and log splitters have their own hydraulic control box. So there's a whole controller. That's why I'm able to run all of these from standing right next to it. So your detent takes basically just one of your hydraulic couplers and keeps it flowing. It keeps it open. So it flows through your implement and back through the tractor, which is what allows you to operate, 2, 3, 4 individual hydraulic levers, even though you're only plugged into one SCV on the tractor. That's why a detent is important. And the more implements they're making for tractors nowadays, I'm presuming there's going to be a lot more stuff that could be useful to get that detent.
Okay, back here still behind the tractor. This was definitely one of the absolute must-haves for me getting this last tractor. And actually the last several of them had it. But an external 3-point controller. All right, some of them are electric and some, like this, is a manual one. So this is actually just tied into the inside lever. Phil and I were kind of looking at this. He's going to try and fabricate one for his tractor. But this is an absolute must-have, because when you're out here working on implements and that, it just makes it so much easier than having to get in and get out and get in and get out. So a rear 3-point lift arm is a must-have from my experiences, and trust me, if you get it and you never had it before, you'll greatly appreciate it. There's no doubt about that. Okay, so moving into the cab. For me, the cab itself is a must-have. I'm pretty sure most cabs come with heat and air conditioning, but definitely if you're going to get a cab, you need heat and air conditioning. Otherwise, you're in a greenhouse in here. And for me, I've got lung disease, so the hot ain't as bad as the cold, but the heat or the air lets you work outside, obviously, in much different conditions than an open station does. So the cab and the heat and the air are a must-have. It's not just for comfort, it's for productivity, so that you can get out in the field or the woods or whatever when otherwise you wouldn't be able to, or you'd be miserable. Like this week, it's 100 heat index with like 102% humidity. So days like that, it's really nice to have the cab and the air conditioner. The radio also, to me, is a must-have, just because I enjoy music and it helps make the time go a little better or whatever. But that may not be for you, but for me, the radio was a must-have. Okay, as far as the tires go, I prefer the ag tires. Yes, that's right. I know some of you long-term guys who've been around for a while, I used to promote the R4 tires. But having switched over to ag tires just personally for the traction, I prefer the ag tires far over the R4s. All right, I don't really like this at all, especially since I'm not accustomed to the rig yet, used to it. I'm going to tell you what, that was a nice pucker moment. It's hard to kind of see, but I mean, that straight off drop If you saw me standing there, you know, that's a 2 to 3 foot difference straight down. For the traction, I prefer the ag tires far over the R4s. And the reason I didn't get ag tires earlier was because the R4s were 8-ply and the ags were 6-ply. However, now that I've moved up to a larger tractor, these ag tires are 8-ply. So this is the best of both worlds. You've got basically 8-ply heavier duty ag tires that can withstand more on the of rocks and sharp stuff. The other thing that's a must-have for me is I have them filled with fluid all the time. I mean, a tractor, if you know anything about tractors, your engine and your horsepower is really nothing unless you can get it to the ground. And by adding fluid in all four, it really increases the stability and the safety, especially when you're talking about hillsides and angles and stuff like that. It's just more weight holding you down to the ground. So R4s are doable. They don't leave as bad a tracks, I guess. To me, they look the same, but they are, you know, they're heavy duty, especially for a smaller tractor. But I just prefer the ag tires, and definitely whichever one you have, I definitely recommend getting them filled with fluid. Or suitcase weights, you can get them in the front or the back. Same principle, but filling it with fluid gets that weight all the way down to the ground, which is a little more advantageous than suitcase weights that are, you know, 3 foot up off the ground. Just my take on that. And something else that I always add on, which a lot of them are coming standard, but you might want to check, is the work lights. It's really nice if you got to do something at night. It's nice to have them work lights. I've even added, like on the excavator and the Polaris, I've actually added on most of the machines extra LED lights. Practice digs here. Look at that light. There's the camera. I don't even want to face right at it, it'll blind it. But as long as you have one set, you could do whatever you need to do at night. So I always check for work lights, both front and rear, on any tractor that I get. All right, so back in the cab here, this was one of the 2 absolute must-haves for a power shuttle, for me anyways. The first one was the rear 3-point lift. The second one was this electronic clutch here, so you can clutch on the fly. All right, and this Coyote is very super smooth, very nice, but this little button just makes things a lot easier. This plus the power shuttle. I mean, I should say I prefer a power shuttle over a manual any day of the week because it's just so much faster and more productive. But in addition, I really like this shift on the fly electronic clutch here. So definitely power shuttle or a hydro, and an ability to shift on the fly. So this and the rear 3-point arm would have knocked any tractor out, and it actually did. I spec'd out several different manufacturers. Some of them didn't even have this, or some didn't have that, or both of them together. So this is very useful. Phil just tried this out the other day. He stopped over and he really liked it. So it might seem like something small, but it's very useful when you're using a power shuttle. I mean, very useful.
Okay, so that wraps it up. Hopefully you learned something, or at least enjoyed some good tractor videos. Don't forget, if you enjoy our content, to hit the like button, and please share it out there to help us grow our YouTube family. So here's one last look at our last Coyote. You could see I did some homemade suitcase weights, but a lot of times you'll find that when you load them tires, you'll have much more stability when you don't have extra weights, as opposed to just having those tires empty. Trust me, I know I've almost piled it forward over once going downhill with something in the loader, and after that's when I started loading the tires all the time without exception. So best of luck to everybody out there. We hope to see you again here at Kapper Outdoors. Thank you.